All right, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for our exclusive Ask Two live conversation. To our panelists and all of the participants, we want to thank you for taking the time to address this very important issue during such a time of uncertainty. We are going to get started in just a moment after a brief opening statement from our panelists, but first, some ground rules.
Just want to let you know that all participants will remain muted throughout the conversation, but we do want to hear from you, so you'll be allowed to submit your questions in the comment section. If you're comfortable being in front of the camera, you can use the raise hand feature. A member on our team will unmute you, and then you'll be able to ask your question.
Yeah, we of course ask that you remain cordial and respectful at all times. We will first address questions that were submitted via email and then answer questions that you, the participants, submit.
Now let's meet our panelists. Joining us today is Program Director Veronica Lawrence with Project Grad Houston.
Hi, Andy.
How are
Thanks
you?
for having me on the show. So I am the program manager at Grad Cafe by Project Grad. Been with them now for 3 years. Originally coming from the HISD industry as well, working for their college success team. So I'm happy to be a part of this and to answer any questions that anyone has in reference to college.
All right. And we also have Assistant Registrar and Director of Admissions at Lee College, Dr. Carl Husband. Dr. Husband?
Thank you, Keith. Good evening, everybody. Really good to have you all here. As Keith said, I work at Lee College in Baytown. Definitely happy to be here with you all today and happy to answer some questions. Thank you.
I want to introduce the Association Director of College Readiness for the YMCA of Greater Houston, Aliska Malveaux. Hi, Aliska.
Hi, Andy. Thank you all for being here this evening. As Andy said, I am the Director of College Readiness at the YMCA of Greater Houston, where I oversee our College Readiness and Achievers program. Just to give you a brief synopsis of our Achievers program that we offer. So we offer our Achievers program through our programs called Y Team Life, which provides opportunities for youth to realize who they are and identify their purpose. Specifically, our Achievers program was founded by Quentin Meese in 1967, right here in Houston, Texas. And so our program here in Houston focuses on helping teens set and pursue high educational and career goals, resulting in graduation and acceptance to an institution of higher learning. I'm looking forward to helping guide teens and families this evening during this discussion. Thank you.
All right. No, thank you, Aliska. We also have Program Director, Outreach and Recruitment for Houston Community College, Vanessa Grover. Vanessa.
Hi, thanks for having me this evening. As we just mentioned, my name is Vanessa Grover, and I am from Houston Community College. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to engage with potential future students as well as parents. So ask the questions away. We're here to answer them. So thank you for your time.
All right, Vanessa, thank you so much. Last but not least, Executive Director of Career Readiness for Houston ISD, Michael Love. Hey, Michael.
Thank you, Andy. Good evening, everyone. Executive Director of Houston ISD, a small district here in Houston. No, but with that, we work directly with about 50,000 high school students. So our main goal is to provide our students with the skill sets and knowledge to hopefully matriculate onto a career or a college that they feel is best suited for them. And I want to thank KPRC for hosting this event. I think it's a great avenue for us to have this dialogue, and I hope that we can answer the questions our guests have. Thank you.
All right, it's our pleasure. And again, thank you all for being a part of it. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the questions. This first question comes from Angie P. And this really is for all of you, so just feel free to jump in and tackle it. Angie P. says, my son is going to be attending college in the fall of 2021. This will be the first time he's going to be not living at home. What advice do you have for someone who is new to a college campus and has always lived at home? Brings back memories. And feel free, any of you can jump in and tackle that one.
I can jump in, and then Veronica, you can continue on. I would say certainly, a few steps here, I would sit him down and have the conversation around this new experience that you both new journey that you both will encounter, right? Not only him going away, but it will be new for you as well, that he will not be at home. So just talk about the newness of the journey that you both will experience, how you're feeling about it, how he's feeling about it, offer some tips to prepare, right? How to set up your room seems very easy, low-hanging fruit, but also study tips, how to tackle anxiety, how to engage, how to remain safe, wear your PPE, wash your hands, social distancing. So I think the main thing right here is really to have that conversation and acknowledge the new journey that you both will enter. And it's okay. And you will not have all the answers up front, but you both will be learning along the way of what it means to be away from each other as he is now growing and allowing his wings to expand even more. Enjoy the journey.
Yeah, and I'll just piggyback off of Vanessa, and I'll just say the most important thing is to make sure that you have open communication with your student. Make sure that you have that connection where you can always communicate, find the resources, make sure you explore that campus to know all the resources. Campuses have so many resources and they go, none of the students take advantage of it. It's part of their tuition. So find out what student services is, find out where their healthcare is, if they need mental health service, whatever it is that they need. These features are all on a campus. So acclimate yourself as well as with your child. Take several visits before you send your student off. Know the security precautions that are out there. Talk to them about finances. That is the number one thing that I strongly recommend, is that you talk about budgeting and finance, time management, how to coordinate that. And just make sure that they're involved with some type of organization that can help them through that process, as well as you, what those steps look like. If we hit a bump in the road, where can we go to? Who can we trust to ask for advice? Those are all going to be important, but it all stems down to communication. If you can communicate with your child and your student and you can have dialogue, you can always get the help that you need.
Okay, so this next question, this is going to be to either Veronica or Michael. When should my child start preparing for college?
Well, I'd say it's never too early to prepare, but ideally I'd say we would probably recommend around sophomore, junior year. Really start getting an idea of what careers you're interested in, becoming more aware of like what would be your interest as far as a career going beyond high school. But also then, what does it take to ensure that you have the credentials to go into that career? And there's a lot of interest surveys out there and free ones through Texas Education Agency and other organizations, where you can kind of gauge the interests of what you would like as far as your personality and the career aspects of what would align with that your personality, to ensure that when you go into a degree field, it's something of interest, and that you hopefully will pursue that then beyond high school.
Great.
I guess you want me to so I'll add.
Yeah.
So yeah, that philosophy is great, like sophomore year, but we'll start them as early as you can. Never be too early. And I think freshman year is one of those years that you really need to start thinking about, where do I begin? What courses should I take? Should I take AP? Should I take dual credit, right? Those two are always compared, like which one is better for me? And personal opinions can get in the way, but definitely start in your freshman year. Think about colleges, start visiting colleges. It's never too early to start visiting a campus, to get a feel for what it's like, talking to students on a campus, visiting, take 2 or 3 tours and different, all college campuses are different. So if you start early, you start preparing early. What do I have to do? Also start thinking about finances. How much does it cost to go to this institution that my student really wants? You can't start saving in your senior year. That's something that needs to start far before they even hit high school. But if you start in your freshman year and you start getting this idea of it takes $40,000 a year to go to this school versus it takes $20,000 a year, you can have those conversations with your student that is something we can afford or something that we need to work out, or you just have to have different options on how to get to where you want, but having that conversation and starting as early as possible.
Veronica, I heard you mention campus visits, and this next question we have from Diana H. I think a lot of parents and families are thinking about this particular question right now. Diana says, my senior has totally lost interest in pursuing college despite being avidly involved in receiving good grades. It's a long one, so bear with us. She says, excitement usually builds when you get to experience the college atmosphere. So I was looking forward to a college visit tour over the summer, but COVID. But what advice do you give to parents to motivate and encourage your college-bound student during this time in absence of in-person college visits? I think all of you can address that, but Aliska, I'll ask you to jump on that one first.
Certainly, thank you. So for one, it's completely normal. We're going through unprecedented times right now during this COVID pandemic. And so it's normal for teens to start losing that motivation. But during COVID, so a lot of colleges are reinventing the way that they're doing campus visits. So many colleges have virtual tour options. Granted, it's not the same as going, but it's the best that they can do right now. And so I would encourage you to start engaging in those virtual tour options with your teen during this time.
And Dr. Husband, how are you all handling it there at Lee College?
So we're not having the on-campus tours right now, but we're still trying to give as much guidance from our recruitment team as possible. And as far as when students have started, even though they might not be able to like physically come on campus to meet with like, say, a club or something like that, almost all of our student organizations are still active. They're doing things like what we're doing now, using Zoom and other ways to collaborate and work together. But it's not as if that student experience is completely gone. It's just different than it normally is.
All right. I've got a question from the chat room, so I'm going to open this up to all of you. This is from Gina R. Would you recommend using the Apply Texas application? Carl, do you want to start us off on this?
Sure, yeah. So Apply Texas works for most Texas colleges and universities. For instance, Lee College, and I think the other colleges represented here. So yes, I do think that's the best way if you're wanting to go to an institution in the state. It does depend on the school though, but you can do multiple applications through there to different schools, all with one profile. You can also always go in there and see which schools allow it that way. But if there's a particular school that you want to go to, I mean, you can always visit their website and see what their normal application format is. So yeah, but for instance, if you are interested in coming to Lee College, that is the route that we would want you to take to fill out an application. And we do have assistants on campus for filling out that application. So you can always reach out to us for help with that.
Great. Vanessa, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so definitely agree. I think the Apply Texas allow an individual, as Dr. Husband said, to create a profile and apply for college. So it's the ease of, almost like a one-stop shop where you can kind of set yourself up and apply to different colleges. So the ease of that can feel right for an individual, but being clear that that's the process that the college that you're really interested in follows. If not, then to kind of be clear on what that option is. But Apply Texas is a good way to go.
Michael, Veronica, we see you nodding your head. So would you like to add anything?
I was actually going to talk about the AP dual credit course, I think, question that came up within it. But I think, I don't know, Kevin, Keith, if that's too early to get to that.
No, hey, let's go for it. Yeah. Let's jump right into it.
Okay, perfect. No, AP and dual credit are great options. I think a lot of families should consider in high school. Not only do they, add as far as usually a weighted credit to overall GPA for students as far as who are thinking about the ranking for high school graduation, but also considering the fact that most universities across the country will accept AP, and the universities, especially public in the state of Texas, will take dual credit. By law, they have to take the dual credit academic courses. So that's something too you should consider. But also, if you pursue that and you do receive credit in those courses, when you start looking at universities and colleges, it's great to even have conversations with them as far as admissions to see of the courses you've taken and you've successfully completed, which courses will they accept and how do they apply to your degree? But overall, those are great options. I would encourage a lot of people to consider, but just ask your college, your high school counselors and others, just more of the details around those courses that are being offered.
If I could add in here too, I would say it also tests your readiness to, as you prepare to enter college, right? So it's that great preparation when you're that in between space when right there when you're trying to navigate what that may look like. So it's great exposure into like those college classes. You can graduate with an associate degree and also graduate from high school as well. So just think about your journey and where you want to go, right? When you finish high school, you can have that option as well. And so I think preparing for college really begins freshman year. My thoughts freshman year of high school, when you really begin to explore majors, careers, passion, interests, right? And how do you tie that into a major in a college that will get you the credentials to eventually get paid, right? To get that job that matches your interests, right? Right, Keith, right? You eventually want to get the dollars, right? And so I think that exploration piece, it's really helpful instead of waiting to the very end or waiting to, your senior year, junior year, you're now trying to rack up or show interest in dual credit or AP courses, begin to have those conversations very early on and gain some of those skills. And so AP class can be a breeze, or dual credit can just be, a breeze for you, or an extra stretch. So I think that's a nice way to go.
I also think it's a good way to to make college cheaper, essentially. I think it's a good way to save on that final cost of your entire college education is to go with a dual credit or an AP route.
Mm-hmm.
Good advice.
Okay. Want to get to this next question. We have another one from the chat room. This is from Mike H. Do your schools consider high school ranking when considering class ranking? Vanessa, you want to start us off on that?
I'm not too sure, but I can take a stab here, Mike. And if I'm not hitting the nail here, someone else in this panel can pick up, or you can just add another question here. At our particular college, community college, we service the community. We serve the community, right? So we're not admitting you based on your GPA, or we're not admitting you based on how you rank in class. We're admitting, we want you to come in with your tenacity, your drive, your motivation, your grit, and we'll provide the wraparound service for you. We want you to come to us with a desire to secure an education, right? So we don't use that as a way to box you out and to say that you're not ready or you're not qualified. We do not use it as a determinator at all. So I'm hoping that was the question. If not, please let us know.
Okay. Carl, do you have anything to add?
I think I can add just a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm very similar to HCC in our approach. As a community college, we're an open enrollment institution. That means, basically we accept anyone. We're not going to keep a student out based on their high school performance. It can sometimes play into kind of how your academic advisor might help you out, though. Your academic advisor will often be looking at your past academic outcomes just to help you with some guidance on where you probably will be best served when you start classes. It doesn't limit your options in any way, but just kind of guiding you and figuring out where the best fit for your freshman classes are. But yeah, it's not, well, just a note, at a university level, something like your class rank could play into your being accepted or not. But at a community college, that would typically not be the case.
Right. And that last thing I would add here, if you didn't perform as well as you wanted to in high school, do not let that be a decider indicator tell you that you're ready for college as well, right? You might have been experiencing many different situations, different variables might have been, in that time when you were in school. So do not let that to be a deciding factor. Colleges offer many wraparound services, especially tutoring and whatever you need, and you have that need and desire to complete your degree, I'm sure college will provide with what you need. So don't let that be a deciding factor for you at all.
I also want to add to that because a lot of universities and four-year institutions do consider. So I don't want to put that message out there. I want everyone to know if you're considering a four-year or a university, your GPA can be a factor, right? There are some universities that say you need to be in the top 10% or you need to be in the top 6% to get in. So GPA, that is a factor, and you need to research what school I'm applying to and what is the criteria to get into that. So that fluctuates. On the community college level, they may be equally the same, but when it comes to university, that would be diverse and it would be very specific to that university, whether they're going to factor in that or not, like your GPA, or are they going to do a holistic overview over you, or are they looking for your SAT score? So there's a lot of factors to consider. That's one of them, depending on the institution that you are going to apply to. So I just want to put it out. And like Vanessa said, if you didn't do so well, perform academically well, you can start at a 2-year community college to raise your GPA and get what you need to then transition over into that 4-year institution. So that is a pathway by starting at a community level to improve and do better so that you can then move on to the 4-year institution and graduate where you wanted to originally start at.
Yeah, I've always looked at college as, you know, an individual can do, regardless of their past, can do as well as they want to do as long as they apply themselves. So that's what I found in my case, at least. So I don't want to give up too information about my academic past, but I think, you can do as well as you want to do if you apply and you're a self-motivator. All right. Next question we have from Carlos. What advice would you have for students who want to major in something like art, theater, or music, something that involves physical in-person interaction and is really hard to do virtually? And, you know, and that would be, you know, if you're at the, you know, HISD high school level, or you're advising high school students who want to pursue, you know, art, theater, or music, or if you're already there at Lee or at HCC, how would you advise those students? So this is really something all of you can answer.
Well, I would recommend, I think, pursuing your desired path is amazing, but also considering one factor you have to consider is the job growth and potential for employment also beyond your high school career in that field. And that's usually information, you know, from Texas Works and different Texas organizations provide data as far as job growth potential in this region. And I think it's important for our youth to understand that, because it's extremely important as far as career opportunities once you graduate even from a university. That's not to say do not pursue your dream. Keith, like you said, I think if you're persistent enough and have the desire, you'll be successful, but also understand certain career fields will probably require you to go beyond a bachelor's degree and then seek out a master's, and even further, sometimes even a professional degree or doctorate. So I say consider those factors. But as far as instruction capacity, as far as some of these fields that are more practitioner, where you have to be hands-on, fine arts, also you think about career aspects of career and technical education, you kind of have to have discussions around what are those institutions doing to provide those learning opportunities for the students right now. You know, these are unprecedented times with COVID, so we're having to adjust and be flexible, but are they actually offering the hands-on opportunities? I think all of our institutions are trying their best to try to figure this out, but we're trying to be mindful of the social distancing and CDC guidelines to ensure the safety of our students. So some of those learning opportunities may just look different from what we traditionally have done. So I'd say just consider those things, but also don't be afraid to ask our institutions, ask HCC, Lee College, even some of our ISDs, you know, what are you doing for your students in these career fields right now to ensure that they're meeting the objectives that you want?
Yeah, if I can add here too, I would say when you first start, you're doing your fundamental core, basic core classes, right? So when you're starting, you're not just like jumping into that major right away, even though you want to, right? You're doing like those basic fundamental classes, right? So keep that in mind. You're building your foundation with those courses there. If you're further along in your education, like at HCC, we do have some courses where they're back on campus following the guidelines that's recommended. So you're talking about a class of 6 students. Very, very small. A lot of social distancing happening, right? And so like Michael said, like learn more about what the college is offering you around those particular in-person or interactive majors as it pertains to not only classes and but also your safety. It's very important. So at HCC, we do offer some of those programs that you have to come in person, practicing the guidelines. But when you first start in school, you're doing your basics, right? You're doing your basic classes to get to the desired fun things that you would like to do. So keep that in mind as well.
And just to chime in real quick, so I mean, I can speak for Lee College directly, but I think this is true of many colleges and universities here in Texas and beyond. But we really do have a lot of hybrid options for many courses, especially if they are more hands-on. And I usually think of that more as like the technical industrial type fields, but not just that, on the academic end too. Like, for instance, I don't remember specifically all of our like arts and theater type classes, but I do believe we have some of those in like more hybrid forms that still allow you to get on the hands-on. I think of a class like ceramics or something like that, where you need to physically do some activities in a like kind of an art lab setting. Yeah, we're definitely accommodating students in those situations. And we're just taking, safety protocols to heart and really doing everything we can to make sure that our students and faculty are safe in those situations.
And last thing here I want to say is we don't want to say I'm not saying that all of your desired, hands-on classes will happen on campus. I think also instructors and college are getting really creative with this Zoom, Teams, this virtual setting. So some of that you will experience virtually as it speaks to our current time. So please be open. If you are a creative major, allow your imaginations to kind of serve you well in this new space here. And don't get boxed in with a traditional way of doing things.
All right, some great answers there. Got another question from the chat room. This is from Brian P. I've heard lots of schools are now making the ACT and SAT optional. Will it hurt a student's chances for admissions if they decide not to take the ACT or SAT? Aliska, can we start with you on this?
Thank you, Andy. So it really just depends on the school that the teen is applying to. So yeah, it really just depends on the school. I would still encourage my teens to take the ACT and the SAT and to still start prepping for those if they haven't. If your teen has not already started prepping and studying for those tests, I would still encourage them to take those tests if you can. But if you can't, I think that is something that the schools are starting to do now because of the pandemic and because the ACT and the SAT is not readily available to a lot of students. A lot of students are not able to access those tests. So if you can, yes, I would encourage you to take the ACT and the SAT. But as far as it affecting your teen's chance of getting into a school, it really depends on the school and their standards as far as that SAT and ACT score goes.
I want to add to that because this is a question that we get asked quite a bit about ACT, SAT. And so there are a lot of schools that are test optional. And test optional means just that, test optional. And so students are taking these tests and they're submitting their scores before even seeing their scores, right? These scores will get automatically sent to these schools. And if they didn't perform well, this is something that could prevent them from actually getting into the school because they sent it. So if it's a test optional school, or if they said you do not need to submit your SAT or ACT scores, I strongly recommend, and I know that this could be something that can go back and forth, but I don't recommend you sending it or even putting that much of, a lot of people are going through a lot of stress. And if you're not going to do well, or the environment that you have to take this test now is going to be set differently than something that you're not used to being in with social distancing or rescheduling or whatever the case may be, you may not perform as well. And so it may hurt you versus help you to do this. So if it's test optional, I say don't send your scores, don't do it to yourself. And people could be on this board to say, I don't agree with her, and that's okay. But as a parent, I would tell my child, honey, they tell you not to do it. Let's not waste our time on that. And let's move on to something else that we do have to focus on, like that essay of yours that they might need to consider to get you in, because that's required while your SAT scores are not required. So look into the schools. I'll drop a link to Big Future, which is created by the SAT College Board. And those schools, all the schools are listed on there, and they'll let you know whether they're test optional or not. So my thing is, do your research before you decide to do something, spend money, spend time on something that is really not needed for the application. Because if you have to pay out of pocket and you pay $60, $70 for something that they're not even going to use, why when you can spend that money on something else. That's my personal opinion, and that's how I'm going to advise, because if they don't have to spend money on those things, I'm telling them move forward and spend your money on something else, because school's expensive and you're going to need some other funds to do some other things that are necessary.
And Veronica, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to chime in real quick. Just to indicate that most community colleges don't require ACT or SAT scores. Doesn't mean they're not necessarily not useful in some way. They can exempt you from state testing, that sort of thing, maybe placement of our classes, but they generally aren't required at the community college level.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good to know. Michael, did you have something you wanted to add?
There's also another exam that I know universities in the state of Texas accept, and that's the TSI, Texas Success Initiative. And a lot of high schools actually offer that to their students for free. And that's something to consider also. That's another exam that our public universities in the state will accept kind of as an entrance exam. So there's other options out there. And that's also, to Veronica's point, is kind of knowing the university you're going to, or college you're looking at pursuing, and researching that as far as what do they look at as far as acceptance and the packaging, and as far as what they look at as far as credentialing. Marks as far as students and accepting them to the university or that specific program. So there's options out there. So don't kind of get stuck on ACT and SAT, but also find out from the university what they're looking at as far as a student.
Great.
All right. We're a little more than halfway through our conversation, going really well. So let's keep it moving. Just want to remind our participants as well that you can use your raise hand feature if you are comfortable being on camera and asking your question live in front of everyone else. So don't forget about that option as well. We're getting some great questions from our chat section though. And this next one comes from our chat section. It is from Angie P. And she asks, what are some of the top college majors that have careers in demand? So not, that of course we hope are going to be paying decent money too, but what are the ones that that have high demand right now?
So we've done several different high demand, high growth workshops. And depending on the area that you're in or the concentration, but we know that IT is one of those high demand, especially now, right? Everybody's doing everything virtually. So cybersecurity is one of those things that is like really up there at the top of the list. If you're in the Baytown area, like Carl and I work out of, it's industrial. So we have all these industrial opportunities that are out there, and, we're there with all the plants and stuff like that. So that's a very high growth, high demand job as well. And then there's healthcare, right? We know that there's a lot of people now knocking out, I want to be a nurse. I want, it's job security, seeing all of the nurses and doctors and stuff that we need. So healthcare is another one. And then of course, business, right? That's something that's kind of like never goes out. There's always something that you can do in the business field. So those we have learned are high growth for this area, right? Because depending on where you're at, but in this region, we know that healthcare and IT and the industrial market and business are those high demand, high growth careers. And I can also put a link in there where you can find it. And we can help you research career assessments, what's in your area or where you're planning to live. You might want to look at that, because if you plan on relocating or not staying in Texas, that may be something that you need to consider too. Like, you don't want to do oil and gas and you're going to, a city or state that's not a high demand, high growth career. So you want to do your homework on that too, depending on if you're planning on staying here in Texas or not.
And there's a couple other areas to consider, especially on the technical side. You think about construction technology. There's a lot of fields within construction technology that are high growth and still in demand right now. But also global supplies and logistics. You think about your corporations like Amazon, UPS, FedEx, they're continuously expanding. And those are extremely high growth and high income careers where you can earn an associate's degree and within 5 to 10 years be making over $100,000 in that career field.
Okay. All right. I have another question I want to get to here. This is from Sharday C. She's here on the chat with us, but I'm going to ask this question for her. What should I consider if my child doesn't want to do virtual learning and is taking a year off? Who wants to take the first shot at this one? Veronica?
Somehow I had a feeling that I was going to be called on for this. And so I'll give you my personal opinion on this. And I'll say that if your child is not ready to go to college, I would strongly recommend that you just support them in that decision. It is a very challenging time right now. And sometimes the vision of going away to college is that you're going to be on this campus, you're interacting, there's sororities, there's fraternities, there's this independence that comes with it. And a lot of students are discouraged. But if they start school and you push them, a couple of things can happen. They can not be successful. They can start failing classes. They can lower their GPA, which can affect their financial aid. It could, it's a domino effect of just sliding down. So if they're not ready to acclimate, just encourage them to just stay focused, to stay connected, get them involved in some other things like volunteering, doing things that still builds on their resume. So it's like, okay, well, you're not going to school, but what are you going to do? You have to do something. You have to stay engaged. You have to stay connected. You have to stay involved, and then encourage them. And maybe spring semester, right? Put them in a support group, get them involved in something around other students who are doing virtual distancing, right? So they have to stay connected. You have to get them plugged in, or you have to get them doing something, but they just can't sit home and be a couch potato, right? So don't let that happen. But if they're not ready to do online courses, and online learning requires a lot more than in-person learning. It is a lot more challenging to do online learning. I was an online learner, and I know that it is very painful and very hard. So if they're not ready to do it, I wouldn't force them, but I would definitely encourage them to just keep looking at opportunities and some options, or maybe taking a hybrid class, right? One, half online, half in school, just to keep their feet in the water and not fully out. And say, okay, we'll just do one class. Do it at a community college. It's more cheaper, it's more affordable, and then you can go from there.
If I can add here, I would say also understand the why they're talking about not wanting to go, or the gap year. Like, help me to understand why. Because with it, engaging that conversation, you might learn something totally different than when you assume, right? You might have thought just the overwhelmingness of school, or it might just be, this just feels different, and this newness is just so overwhelming, right? Okay, so you do want to go, but just the overwhelmingness of it just feels hard. How do we break this down in bite-sized way where your student can digest it and feel like it's capable and they're capable and doable, which we know they're capable, but they need to feel it's doable, right? So make sure that maybe they can join some virtual information sessions. Maybe they can tune into college's YouTube channel to see what's happening. Like Veronica said, take 1 or 2 courses just to test the water, right? Making sure they're tapping into wraparound services. So how do you understand their why, and provide the support to help them to navigate in that space? And yeah, I agree, don't allow them to be a couch potato and just sit there and just kind of, I'm just trying to figure it out. Well, we can do some things while you're figuring it out, but you're gonna do something. And just be clear on what that something is, so they can continue to learn and grow.
One of those things should be get a job while you're waiting.
That's a good point.
I mean, you can learn some skills too, right? There's a lot of skills you can learn, right? So it's just having that conversation, setting some realistic expectation, understand how you can support, just some major things that can be helpful.
Okay. Anyone else on that?
I would say volunteering, where you have a lot of young students who are e-learning as well, right? So you can help these younger ones with math, maybe English. So you're helping the younger ones who are struggling. There's a lot of parents out there who are struggling with technology and trying to get their kid and trying to do this math. My daughter brings home math, and I'm like, we never did math that way. And so maybe they can help and volunteering into being virtually able to help these younger ones to get to where they need to, because they're struggling as well in an e-learning environment. And it's not an option for them. Some of them just have to do it, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next question. We're going to talk a little bit more about money. I know we've put through 2 daughters through college. One's a senior and one still has to go. And a lot of times we were guided by, hey, where are you getting the most money from? That's going to help guide our decision. And money, to go to school for a lot of people is a huge issue. And that brings us to a question from Hazel M, who says, my oldest is a senior and first to go through all of this, and it seems like a lot. How do we pick a school that will give her the most money to help pay? Any of you can tackle that.
Well, I would definitely recommend applying for FAFSA and TAFSA as soon as possible to open up as of today. That assists. I think the earlier you apply, the more likely you are to get a larger package from the universities or colleges that you're seeking, but that's one step to consider.
And I mean, I think you always have to think about community colleges. We are just drastically cheaper, and it can get you through those first 2 years with a lot smaller bill. And then you can transfer to a university to complete your education. But yeah, I mean, FAFSA is the ultimate key. Fill it out, see what you qualify for. You might be surprised at the kind of grants that you might qualify for. So that, I think, is always the first step.
Also, there are a ton of scholarships out there. A ton of scholarships. And Mike can attest to this because we work for HISD, and we used to get these organizations calling us saying, why aren't these kids applying to these scholarships, right? And they would, they would tell us, you have to get these kids to apply. And it's like, our kids would tell us, everybody's applying, I'm never going to get it, miss. But the organizations are saying, nobody's applying and we can't give away this money. So scholarships are a great way to earn money. Coca-Cola just launched theirs. It's 150. They're going to award 150 students $20,000. The Houston Rodeo is another $20,000 scholarship. These are big scholarships that your student could definitely win if they start now. Start writing their essays now. Get an English teacher or somebody who's really good in writing to review it, to edit it, to go back. You can't write your essay the night before and submit it and think this is great work. All great things, need to be tweaked and stuff like that. So give yourself some time. I'll drop some more scholarship portals that you can have access to that information. They have thousands of different scholarships. Scholarships will start launching now. This is the time where scholarships start to launch. As we get into November, they really start to come out. I know some of them say, oh, not due for 3 months from now. If you see it now, get it done now, because more will start coming. The more you apply, the better chance you have of getting them. But scholarships, so many go not being awarded because a lot of students are not applying. And it's kind of like that myth that everybody's applying, I'm never going to get it, but it's just that. It's not fact. So I'll drop some scholarship opportunities in there because I think that's a great resource to get free money. Also, organizations, like if your mom works for certain companies, they may give away a scholarship. If your church may have a scholarship. If your parents were in the military, especially if they enlisted in Texas, right? They have something, Hazelwood, that offers them to be able to transfer that over to their child. So these are some different opportunities that you can look at for funding where it's free. It's not a loan. This is free money that you don't have to repay back. So that's the most important thing, right? Like you don't have to pay this money back.
Just got to figure out how to ask and where to ask and who to ask.
Well,
that's not a hard piece. Right. I was going to say, Veronica's going to drop tons of links right now for you.
We're a free service, so we're not even going to charge you for this information, and we're not going to charge you to help you. We do one-on-one, and I'll drop our appointment link in there. I'll drop all of our services inside of the chat as well. But we have 10 most talented advisors out there that are willing to help and go above and beyond. So I'm so proud to work with these young ladies that I work with and the staff that I work with and the gentlemen that I work with as well. I think they're all great, and we will help you for free. We do not charge. We're a nonprofit organization. So I'll throw that in there as well, so you guys have access to those resources.
And I want to quickly expand from something Veronica said. I think it was extremely important, but I want our youth, especially high school students who are seniors looking at going into a post-secondary institution, to remember the untapped scholarships that go without anyone taking advantage of it are untapped because it might take a little more effort. It may just not be a select these answers here and you submit. It might take a little bit of time as far as providing information on your background and why you desire that institution or that major. But I'd say it's worth it if you continue pursuing those and also complete those, because a lot of those are never submitted because students don't want to put in that extra effort just to submit those and maybe write some essays. So always consider that, because you could be the only one who submits for a $20,000, $30,000 scholarship out there.
Yeah. So if you don't remember anything else, just remember there's tons of free money waiting for you. Apply, complete your essay, do your research. Look at those links Veronica is dropping, grab them, save them.
Yeah, you've got to make that investment in terms of the time that it takes to do the research and make those right connections and talk to the right people. Another question regarding financial aid. This is from Elaine. What are the critical deadline dates for submitting the financial aid forms, FAFSA? Who wants to tackle this first?
All right. So the deadline, the priority deadline is January 15th. And I know that that seems far away. I strongly recommend that you do your application in the month of October, no late. If you haven't done it before Thanksgiving, you are behind in doing it. So my recommendation is Thanksgiving as your deadline, though the state says January 15th. Money and those extra resources that Mike talked about, if you start early applying, like he said, it opened up today, right? Start now, you get additional funding. That's on a first come, first served basis. So if you're waiting to January 15th, you're too late. If you're waiting right before Christmas, you're already too late, because we have a lot of eager beavers and they are out there. And today we help so many students apply for financial aid, and it's October 1st. And our calendar is already booked out for the next week or two. Like, we have so many bookings already that say financial aid. So the sooner the better. It opened up today, October 1st, but the priority deadline is January 15th. Can you do it after January 15th? Yes, you can, but you won't be considered for those additional funds.
Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts on this you want to share with the rest of us?
Just to piggyback off of what Veronica said, just remember, those funds are on a first come, first served basis. So like she said, it's very important that if you can, please complete your FAFSA application this month. Today,
now.
Yes.
Time's a wasting, the clock's ticking. All right, guys.
Okay, wow, we do have a few more minutes, but only a few more minutes. So we want to get as many questions in here as possible. I think this one was kind of already asked. How about this one? This can go to any of you. We've probably touched on it a little bit. Where can we go? This is just a parent asking, where can we go to research colleges? What are the best sources? I mean, I guess it would be easy to say online, but what are some of the best resources? What are some of the best websites to actually go to research colleges and get some in-depth information about the one you want to go to?
Okay, I can go.
Yeah, jump right in.
So I would recommend Big Future. It's right with College Board. They're the owners of Big Future. They do the SAT. I strongly, most students have a SAT profile already. Log into it as you go onto Big Future, and I'll drop that also in the chat as well. But I think it is a great tool, and I'll give you a couple of reasons why. If you go on a regular college or university website, it is very overwhelming. There's so much information, and you don't even know where to go. Me as an academic advisor, it's overwhelming for me to look at all of these different portals and try to find stuff. Big Future puts everything in the same location for every single school, and they break down everything so simple, so clean, and you can save it to your account, and you can compare schools. It tells you how much is the cost of tuition, how many students. It tells you demographics, it tells you major, it gives you deadlines, it gives you SAT scores. When I say it gives you everything all in one location where you don't have to be mapping, and then you can hit save and you can always come back and the information's still there. I think it's beautifully designed. It's my to-go with all my students and my parents when they come to us and stuff like that. So I'll drop that in there, but I think that's one that I use the most. It's the most useful, user-friendly is the word I would say when it comes to college research.
Great. Have another FAFSA question. This is from Alejandra. This is to everyone, to all of you. If my son already applied to FAFSA back in the spring to start school in January, but didn't receive too much money or scholarships, can he reapply?
So I want to get a little bit of clarity on that question. which financial aid did he apply for what academic year? That would be helpful to us to be able to answer that question.
Okay. Hopefully we'll hear back from Alejandra. She's on the, hopefully she's still joining the conversation. We can move on to another question. Keith, you want to grab the next question?
Yes. This one comes from Teresa H, and this is also a FAFSA related question. Teresa says, we took money out of our 401k and it caused our income to be inflated for 2019. Will this affect our FAFSA application? If so, what can they do?
It's definitely going to affect their income. That's for sure. Anytime you take out a loan or anything of that nature, it adds to your income. What they can do is an income amendment form where they can fill out to say, this was my income and this is what we did in 2019. However, it's 2021, right? Because there's students going to school in 2021. So in 2021, this is not what our income looks like. They fill out an amendment form, and then the financial aid at that institution would require them to submit some additional documentation. And that can vary depending on the school that they're at, what extra additional documentation they need to provide. But they would provide that additional documentation, and then the financial aid will make those adjustments based on that. They do know that it's 2 years is what we call prior. So they are aware that these things happen. People get divorced, people get married, people have babies, families grow and stuff like that. So they're aware that they have to make these adjustments to financial aid applications and so forth. But you just have to follow the requirements that the institution then asks you for to provide proof that that is not your income now in 2021 or any year that you're doing it in to say.
Want to get back to the Alejandra question. So she's still on here with us, thank goodness. She's letting us know that her son will start winter semester January 2021, that he applied for loans and the Pell Grant. And she wants to know, can he reapply for FAFSA?
Yes, he does have to reapply, actually. So if he plans on going to school in the fall of 2021, he needs to be doing the FAFSA that just opened up today, which is the 2021-2022. He applied for financial aid that was for 2020-2021. And I know I'm rolling out these numbers, so I'm going to say a little bit slow. For him to go to school in January of 2021, he applied for financial aid that says it is the 2020-2021 financial aid, which says that fall of 2020, I'm going to school, and spring of 2021, I'm going to school. He continues to go to school in the fall of 2021. He needs to apply for the financial aid that opened up today, which is fall 2021, spring 2022.
Okay.
I hope I didn't confuse everybody with all those numbers. But if it's confusing, feel free to text us or call us or make an appointment, and we'll be more than happy to kind of put that out there. But I know that's a lot of 2020s. Don't say that really fast 3 times.
All right, yeah, and we'll have those resources on our website, click2houston.com, and we'll have those numbers as well for people who have any other questions. Believe it or not, we are about at the end of our discussion. But before we go, we want to give our panelists just a few moments to give some closing remarks and thoughts. Let's start with Michael.
Well, again, thank you for this opportunity. I know college and think about your post-secondary options can be overwhelming. I think we've all been there where we just don't know necessarily what we exactly want to do. Take advice. There's a lot of resources out there from the individuals on this panel, but also websites in organizations who can assist. Always feel free to reach out to them. They're here to help you and help you navigate your decisions as far as post-secondary institutions and also what your career aspirations are. So I'm hoping we served as a great service to you, and we look forward to it. Thank you again, KPRC, for hosting this.
You're welcome. Veronica, any final
Yes,
remarks?
thank you. Thank you so much. I'm extremely passionate about helping students and parents. I was a first-gen student, so I know what that struggle is like. I made a lot of mistakes and I went down the wrong roads just because I didn't have the support or the help. So it's where my passion comes from for wanting to assist students especially first-gen students, or even students that are not first-gen and their parents kind of somewhat made it through, but don't know how to navigate. It's very confusing. It's very stressful. But thank you for KPRC too for inviting me to come out. I really appreciate it. And I've put our information, so I hope I get to see some of you guys come through and come visit us for a one-on-one virtual chat for college and career. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, thanks for being with us. Aliska, some final thoughts?
Yes, thank you guys so much. Andy, Keith, you guys are amazing. Thank you, KPRC. Just remember, COVID, this time is so unprecedented and it's a hard time for everyone. And so just remember that you can do this. You got this, teens and parents, you all have this. If you're looking for, extra help, like I said, Project Grad is amazing. They have amazing resources. We send our teens their way a lot of times. We've partnered together on a few things. And also here at the YMCA of Greater Houston, we have Y-Teen Life programs that are amazing. So I'm dropping the link in the chat box for you guys to go and check out some of the programs that we offer. But just remember that you can do this. Yes, we're all going through it. So you can do this. If we can do it, you can.
All right. And Vanessa.
Yes. First of all, thank you for having me here. Just a few things. Remember, it's very doable and possible. If you have questions, you can reach out to any one of us here or find someone locally in your community. HCC is very affordable and have tons of wraparound services that will allow you to be as successful as you would like to be. There's tons of free money that Veronica nicely highlighted. Please do not be intimidated by the unknown. Allow the freeness of the unknown, or the unknown free you to tap into some other great things. You can do it. You can be awesome. You are awesome already. Allow us to support you to continue to be great. So thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Okay. And last, certainly not least, Carl, Dr. Husband.
Well, good evening again, everybody. It's really great to see you all here today and have this chance to talk to you all. I guess I want to just say, don't be afraid to reach out. Don't be afraid to reach out to schools, to us. I mean, I think most of us have put our email addresses and other contact information in the chat. I mean, feel free. We're here for you. So feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to help. Also, I mean, if there's a college you want to go to, reach out to them. They're going to be happy to talk to you and to look at options with you. If you need money for school, feel free to reach out to your financial aid departments and others, scholarship departments. We're here to help. This is what we do. Like we want to help students. We want to help you achieve your dreams. Thank you.
All right. And thank all of you again, all of our panelists for joining us this evening. I want to thank all of our participants as well who joined in tonight's discussion. We really do hope that this was a very helpful and informative conversation.
And just want to remind you, for any questions that we didn't get to, that weren't answered, if you have more, please feel free to submit those on our website, clicktohouston.com/ask2. Also, check clicktohouston.com back to school to look for information that you may still have questions about.
Yes, indeed. And thanks again to everyone. Before we let you go, if you enjoyed our Ask 2 Live event, next week we are hosting another live event on low-cost healthcare. So for more information on that, or if you want to sign up ahead of time, just go ahead and head to clicktohouston.com/ask2. Thanks again, everyone. I really hope some helpful information here, and you all have a good rest of your week and a great weekend.